Were you recording, Ms. Conkey? Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Zarzecki, can you please call roll?
Ms. Chick,
Here, Janet Chick, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County, Michigan.
Mr. Dryer,
Present in Northfield Township, Washtenaw County.
Mr. Gustafson,
Present, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County.
Mr. Quinto,
Present, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County.
Ms. Afonte,
Here, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County.
Mr. Roman,
Here, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County.
Zarzecki, present, Northfield Township, Washtenaw County, Michigan. 7 present.
Thank you. I make a motion we adopt the agenda.
Board,
Oh, go ahead.
Supported by Mr. Iaquino. Any questions, comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Before we go to the call to the public, I would like to remind everyone that comments regarding the item under public hearings can be made during the public hearing for that item. And there's a 3-minute time limit per speaker on the call to the public. So with that, I'll go to Ms. Conkey, please.
Thank you, Chair. At this time, if you wish to address the Planning Commission on any agenda items, like the Chair mentioned, there is public hearing for those items that are listed for public hearing tonight for comment. But please use the raise hand function. You can find it at the bottom of your screen. And wait to be acknowledged. When I do, you'll be unmuted. And please state your name and address for the record before giving your comments. So it looks like we have Laura Rogers up first. So Laura, you should be able to address the Planning Commission.
Thank you so very much. I'm Lori Rogers and I live at 7044 Whitmore Lake Road. We live right across the road from this parcel, and I want to say at the outset that I believe that it is appropriate for this parcel to be developed more densely than how it's currently zoned, and that the PUD process may be the best vehicle because it gives the Planning Commission and the township the ability to shape the project in a way that perhaps simply rezoning would not. I just have 3 concerns with the proposal that I would ask be addressed before the Planning Commission makes a final decision on the rezoning and or the PUD. The first one is asking whether or not sewer is going to be extended to this development. I don't want our property to be required to connect to sewer with the attendant costs, yet I don't have any confidence that septic fields can be installed for this number of households that will work. Our property and both of our adjacent neighbors' properties on either side of us have all had to install engineered fields at considerable expense because all of our original septic fields failed. And so I'd like to make sure that there's been studies done of the parcel to determine that they are in fact suitable for septic, especially for this number of units. I have a similar concern with respect to water for these households, and would like to make sure that somebody's examined and looking at what the impact will be on neighboring wells with over 260 households drawing water from the wells that are proposed here. And then finally, I just want to make sure there is a small wetland that's identified on the site plans on the drawings. And that wetland actually feeds a stream that runs underneath the road, runs across the northwesternmost corner of our parcel that fronts the road there, and then across the shoemaker's property and into a pond on the Spelak-Burkhart property. I just want to make sure that the stormwater and detention or retention area to the north and west of that wetland area and the outlot that's shown, I think, impinging on it a little bit, would not impact it. So those are the concerns and issues that I'd like to just make sure get addressed before this process moves forward.
Thank you, Lori, for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to address the Planning Commission at this time? Okay, we have a couple. As a reminder, if it's related to one of the cases under a public hearing, you will have an opportunity to talk about this case then. David Gordon is up next.
Thank you. I'm not sure that that the proposal to upzone the property for Chestnut development is actually going to be discussed, because I understand it's supposed to be tabled. There wasn't sufficient notice. I'd like to make a couple points about the rezoning. This is nothing new to anybody who's serving on the Planning Commission, but zoning is designed to protect our residents, the people who live here, and to protect their homes and their property. And the idea of radically changing the zoning to accommodate a developer has been soundly rejected by our residents on 2 occasions, including one in the early 2000s on this specific parcel. I've had calls from people that live next to the property who think, I moved here thinking they could put up 30 to 45 homes under the low density, and now we're looking at hundreds of homes. I don't see how that is anything but a betrayal of the people who have bought homes and moved into this area anticipating that the zoning would be the zoning. There are people both on the Planning Commission and on the Board of Trustees who have sworn that they are going to protect the master plan. This area is designed right now for low density residential. The new master plan was just adopted in 2019, leaving it at low density residential. And I would think that that would be the appropriate development for this property based on the master plan and its current zoning. So those are the points I'd like to make. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, looks like we have one more, Francine Dolan.
Hi. So I live right next to the parcel, and I moved here, as David said, with the understanding that I would be living next to a field or next to maybe low density residential. And
Could your address be stated, please?
it is 350 North Territorial Road West.
Thank you.
And I was both shocked and surprised to see that there was even the intention to rezone this property, this parcel. It would make my property worth less, but it would also make my living next to these 400 or so houses very, very unpleasant. So the low density zoning is part of the master plan. As David said, it was adopted in 2019. I mean, I wasn't even aware of that, but it was adopted in 2019. And I don't see any reason why the Planning Commission should not be defending this master plan. It's what you agreed to, and it's what the area deserves. We deserve to have green space, and we also should protect the environment and the wildlife. So as someone mentioned before this, there is a watershed area here. There's a pond on my property, which would definitely be affected. And there are lots of endangered species that come through these areas. I see them in the field. So this is not an area that should be built up. In fact, 4 years ago, when the farmer had planted sunflowers, it was an area that, okay, it was illegal for people to trespass, but people drove by and stopped and used this as an area of beauty. Taking that away is taking away something from not just the people of Northfield Township, but from the whole state of Michigan, because people came from all over to see those sunflowers. And this field is a green space for everybody, not just for me who lives next to it, or the people who drive by every couple days. And I think that we need to defend the master plan. That's all I have to say now. Thanks.
Thank you, Francine. Okay, I have Al up next. And if you've already addressed the Planning Commission, just a reminder to lower your hand so I don't call on you twice.
Actually, if we could make sure we get their full name and address as well, please.
Can you hear me? Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, this is Adam Bolges. I live at 7246 Whitmore Lake Road, which is just east of the property. And I'm in agreement with Dave and Francine on this. I'm not against the guy selling this property, but I think we should stick to the plan that with the low density. And that's basically all I have to say.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to give public comment at this time? Okay, Chair, I see no one else wishing to be acknowledged.
Thank you. Any clarifications from commissioners? Seeing none, we'll move on. No correspondence that I'm aware of. Correct, Ms. Bird?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? It broke up.
Any correspondence, official correspondence?
None, thank you.
Thank you. So public hearing. We have 3 items on for public hearing. Due to, I'm gonna start with A and B. Due to improper signage on the parcels involved in case A and B, 7A and B. I motion to table those items 7A and B until an April PC meeting. Do I have a support on that?
Support.
Support by Ms. Infante. And we will go to comments on the motion or questions on the motion. I would like to have Ms. Konecki comment during the discussion on this motion, please.
Sure. So it was brought to our attention after the notice deadline had passed that the required signage had not been posted on the property. The township's ordinance is pretty clear that any failure to meet the noticing requirements of the township requires the Planning Commission to adjourn the public hearing and postpone consideration until the next available meeting. We're recommending the next available Planning Commission meeting. We think that the applicant will be ready. They received a few comments that we're giving them an opportunity to address, which is why you don't see a packet here for you at least to discuss without public hearing. Although that would never have been my recommendation, I don't think. I think you would want to handle both in one meeting. As far as the actual noticing requirements go, I do want to say that this is not a requirement of the ZEA. This is a special requirement of the township to have signage posted. So if this is an issue that's recurring for the township, I've heard that this is something that has happened in the past to cause public hearings to be tabled with some of the marijuana cases. It could be something the Planning Commission considers the next time it updates its administrative procedures in the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Konecki. Anyone else? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Zarzaki?
Ms. Chick?
Yes.
Mr. Dryer?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Quinto?
Yes.
Ms. Infante?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
And Zarzaki, yes. 7 approved.
Thank you. For item 7C, I'll describe the public hearing process for that. We'll open a public hearing on a voice vote. We'll call on in this case, there's not an applicant, but we'll call on the planner to present a summary of their report. I will call on the public, anyone wishing to speak in support or opposition. If there's any questions by the commissioners, we may clarify, and we will close the public hearing on a voice vote. And there will be 3 minutes limit on each speaker, as in the call to the public. So with that, I make a motion, we open public hearing for amendments to zoning ordinance, Article 31, Administration Enforcement, Section 36-971, Duties and Powers of the Zoning Administrator, and Section 36-979, Violations and Penalties.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Iaquinto. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. With that, we'll go to Ms. Konecki to make any summary of the report.
Thank you, Chair. So the proposed amendments on the table are 2 sections of the administrative enforcement article of the township's zoning ordinance, specifically related to zoning ordinance violations and who has the authority to enforce them. The changes proposed are primarily to address concerns raised by township staff, planning commissioners, and trustees that the code enforcement officer has not been so authorized to enforce violations of the zoning ordinance. Further, the proposed amendments bring the penalties and process associated with code violations into conformance with the township's adopted municipal civil infraction ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Konecki. So we'll go to anyone in the public that would like to speak regarding the public hearing on this item.
So the process is the same as before. If you'd like to give public comment on the proposed amendment, please use the raise hand function. Okay, Chair, I'm not seeing anyone wishing to make public comment.
Thank you. With that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Iaquinto. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, reports of committees, Board of Trustees report. Ms. Chick.
The board met March 9th, excuse me, an RFP for a park designer or landscape architect for the park portion of North Village was approved with changes. This will allow Parks and Rec to apply for DNR and other grants to help develop the park area. The board also approved a request of the Land Preservation Committee to direct the Planning Committee to develop a purchase of development rights ordinance. An ordinance will allow the township to apply for MDARD grants, which could allow funding for preserving farmland. The board also approved scheduling a joint training session with the Planning Commission, the ZBA, and interested board members. The training session will be given by Julie Konecki and Vidya Krishnan of McKenna Associates. It is expected to be held at a regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting in the near future. The session will run 2 to 3 hours with a comprehensive number of items relating to the PC and the ZBA. The board also had a discussion assigning the township manager's administrative duties to other board members and staff while a search for a new manager is had. An RFP for managers is expected to go out soon. A discussion with the township labor attorney will be had at our next meeting to determine the process. That's all I have.
Thank you. ZBA report, Mr. Dwyer.
ZBA has not met since our last PC meeting.
Thank you. Staff report, Ms. Byrd.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Planning consultant report, Ms. Konecki.
I just have one thing to add that I didn't think of when we were tabling the 2 Chestnut cases. The reason we kept it on the agenda, another one of the reasons is we knew a lot of people were going to show up, and also this ensures that you don't have to renotice the meeting. So this gives sufficient notice to the public that it's going to be rescheduled and when and where they can participate. And other than that,
Thank you. Parks and Recreation report.
Thank you. We have a meeting tomorrow, Zoom meeting. If anyone would like to attend, it is open to the public. Please call the township, Jennifer Carlisle, and she will send you the link. We will be doing budget items for improvements to the garden, to the Bark Park, as well as fixing up the areas in the front of the park and the trail that is installed. Thank you. The meeting will be at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Downtown Planning Group report, Ms. Infante.
The DDA did meet, but unfortunately, the posted address through Zoom was different from the posted address for access, so we had to cancel the meeting. That's all.
Thank you. Item 9 is unfinished business, which is the amendment to the zoning ordinance, Article 31, administration enforcement, and the violations and penalties. We'll go to Ms. Konecki for anything further on this.
So there's only been one minor change since the last time you saw this ordinance, and that was a correction of one minor typo. We had a section that said found responsible for a municipal civil infraction, and that was corrected to the proper language, found responsible for a municipal civil infraction.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments by commissioners? Seeing none, I have some. I'll start. I'll just go through the. I'll go through my comments as I did the document front to back. We do have some further corrections, which are not major, but do need to be addressed. And then I have another topic on that. Ms. Konecki, the on B, which says shall, and I quote, shall issue certificates of occupancy as required herein. That's under the section 36-971. To my knowledge, the zoning administrator, by the requirements of the Michigan Building Code, under administration, certificate of occupancy, cannot issue a certificate of occupancy. It is the responsibility of a building official, and there are requirements for an actual certificate issued. So to my knowledge, as far as I know, I've been retired about 10, 11 years, but I don't think it's changed. It may have, but that's one comment. If this is the case, then, you know, quote, as required herein, unquote, it's also incorrect. And I don't think it's stated further in the document to say it's herein, but the zoning administrator can issue certificates of zoning compliance, which is not the same as a certificate of occupancy. Do you want to address any of that, Ms. Konecki, at this point, or do you want me to continue?
Why don't you continue? I think that makes perfect sense to me. It's just the certificate of occupancy was just something we hadn't previously caught in the draft.
Right. And so in section 2, under the Article 31 administration enforcement, in A and B, says notice, it's referring to notice of violation. And I had a question if that's an actual document by the township, or, you know, if that would be an actual piece of paper, because if it is, it need to be capitalized, there it should be. And if not, I'm not sure, but I would defer to Ms. Infante on that, but that's one point. The other is in A, B, and C in that same section. I would suggest to add each day a violation continues may be considered a separate offense. It may be helpful for the administration to consider that. And under C, that section only, there's a comma missing after, quote, who shall erect, should be a comma, end quote. Capitalized site plan in that paragraph. And there's also a comma missing. Again, I refer to Ms. Infante, but it says, quote, provisions of this chapter. The original document had a comma. This one does not. I'm not sure on that one. The other items I had, Ms. Konecki, are that section 3 which is miscellaneous in section 4, effective date. I don't think those appeared on the original draft for the planning commission review. I may be mistaken.
Those have been in the draft the last 2 times that you've seen this. It should have been at least.
Okay, because I had copy of my last draft and it just doesn't, it's not there, but okay, I may be incorrect, but on those, I believe all ordinances should be capitalized in the second paragraph of 3, and section number 4, replace zoning code amendment with quote zoning ordinance amendment, I believe, all caps. And that's it for my my corrections on the final draft. But my comment is, since the planning commission tabled the action on the development of the progress packet for reasons related to current status of the township office, I feel the same should be applied in this case for these amendments. Also, review of how the issuance of a certificate of occupancy could be looked at to make sure that there's compliance with the state building code. And for these reasons, I motion to table the action on this item for not more than 180 days.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Iaquinto. Any questions, comments on that motion? Any comment?
Chick?
I see Ms. Chick.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to table it for 180 days. I do know that the board is going to be looking in very quickly for a building official, and hopefully we can get that done pretty quickly. We have already been advertising for a code enforcement officer, so both of those are really important to this document. So hopefully we'll get that done as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chick. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Zarzaki?
Ms. Chick,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson,
Yes.
Mr. Quinto,
Yes.
Miss Afonte,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Zarzaki, yes. 7 approved.
Thank you. So we will go to the next item, which is 10A, new business. Again, I'll make motion to table items 10A and B until April commission meetings.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Iaquinto. Any questions, comments on that motion? Seeing none, Mr. Zarzaki, you do roll call vote, please.
Ms. Chick,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson,
Yes.
Mr. Quinto,
Yes.
Ms. Afonte,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Zarzaki, yes. Approved.
Thank you. We'll go to item 11, which is approval of preceding minutes from March 3rd. At a regular meeting, I make a motion, we approve those minutes and dispense with reading.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Iaquinto. Any questions, comments, or corrections on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. We'll go to final call to the public. Ms. Conackey, please.
Thank you, Chair. At this time, we'll have our final call to the public. So if there's any member of the public still wishing to address the Planning Commission, you may do so now using the same procedures as before. Please use the raise hand function and state your name and address for the record before giving your comments. Okay, Chair, I see no one wishing to participate.
Thank you, Ms. Conackey. Comments from commissioners. We'll begin with Ms. Chick.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Infante?
If just a really quick point, because our chair is right about there being multiple grammatical problems, and sometimes they actually do matter. And I'm very happy to edit these documents. I just figured it wasn't my place. And there are so many at this point. Sometimes I just let it go, but absolutely it does matter on occasion. And I agree with what the chair, particularly the ones the chair pointed out. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Gustafson,
No comment.
Mr. Quinto,
No comment, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Dwyer.
Did I hear correctly that we would be receiving preliminary plans prior to the Chestnut public hearing?
Ms. Konecki, can you answer that?
Yes, so the next packet, we are hopeful that the applicant will be ready and you will receive the full preliminary plan set that we've been working through with them. Like I said, I made a judgment call, reaching out to Larry and Janet and John before the meeting to not include that in the packet. You certainly could have chosen to not hold a public hearing and discuss it, but we had some late issues that were raised by the fire department that were not previously in their first review letter that we wanted to give the applicant a chance to respond to before we brought it to the Planning Commission. So that should be ready and you will have a full preliminary plan set, which for a PUD is actually quite detailed. It's not really sketch level concept. You'll have a lot of the details of the particular proposal in front of you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Zarzaki.
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I thank Ms. Konecki because there's always a lot of loose on a project. There's always a lot of loose ends and reviews to come in, and sometimes they're last minute. But I appreciate her giving us the heads up on this one, and withhold the packet. Really, I'd like to see it come as complete as possible when it comes to the Planning Commission. And so the public knows, the Planning Commission has not even seen this project on paper. A lot of comments, through the first call to the public, but the Planning Commission has not reviewed even the proposal. So with that, I'd like to announce the next regular meeting, April 7th, 2021, and make motion to adjourn.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Chick. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Mary, we're all set. The recording has been stopped. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.